Yo, what's going on YouTube? I am Germ here, and I really don't want to sound like a broken record, so I'm going to try to hit on some different points in this video. I feel like my voice is kind of going out a little bit. I don't know. I still am sick. I got all my COVID tests back this week. I've been tested multiple times. It's not COVID, so I don't know. It's just some kind of weird sickness I've got or whatever. So if my voice cracks or, anything like that, I don't know. We'll fight through it. But like I said, I don't want to sound like a broken record in this video, but we do have more bad news for the LCS. And I really think at this point, I'm just kind of, I don't know, frustrated, defeated, disappointed, confused, and I really think I'm not the only person that feels like this. Obviously, there are still a lot of people on the other side, but I think that number is becoming less and less, and I think the people on the other side are kind of becoming more and more vocal and more frustrated and disappointed. So we did have, obviously, a new announcement coming out from the LCS today that we're going to be going over in this video. So yeah, definitely drop a like if you guys do enjoy it. I would appreciate that a ton. Subscribe, stay up to date on all my latest content, and check out the link in the description below or the boxes below the description for the new merch we just dropped. That'd be awesome. Help us out a little bit. Easy and awesome way to help support my channel and my content and get something cool in return. But with that being said, let's get right into this. No shocker, just a day after the LEC announced that it will be starting the season not only with no fans in the studio, but no players in the studio as well. They will be going remote. It was time for the LCS to make their announcement, and this is what they tweeted. They tweeted an update on LCS lock-in, and again, as soon as you saw this, you knew exactly what it was going to be. You don't even need to read it. You know what it says. Due to the rising number of cases of COVID-19 in Los Angeles since the beginning of the year, teams will compete remotely during the group stage of the LCS lock-in tournament. Our first and foremost priority is always the health and safety of players, coaches, team staff, and Riot staff. We will reassess the situation going into the knockout stage of the tournament and bring teams back to the studio as soon as it is safe to do so. And again, I tweeted this in response to this. I said, I'm not surprised. I'm just disappointed, because I'm not surprised at all. And when I made that LEC video yesterday, I said, okay, now that the LEC has made this announcement, the LCS is absolutely going to do the exact same thing. The LEC has been like a step ahead of Riot in terms of even getting staff back in the studio, getting players back in the studio. They've been one step ahead because the LCS is, based out of Los Angeles. They're this Los Angeles company, whatever. They're going to be much more strict with all the stuff that they have going on in regards to COVID. But still, to me, this makes absolutely no sense. And one of the reasons it made no sense, I've been tweeting about this a lot, because again, I've been very, very vocal, and we'll check out some of these responses. People are getting more and more vocally frustrated about this, because we are going into year 3 of COVID. We have been quarantining. We have been going through this pandemic. We've so many of us have gotten vaccinated. We've been wearing masks. We've been doing all this stuff. And we've been told along the whole way to do these things and that it'll get better. We'll come back. Life will go back to normal. And it seems like one side is trying. I've gotten vaccinated. I've done a lot of these things. I've quarantined. I've wore masks. I've done all this stuff. And the other side just isn't budging at all. The people on the side of Riot and the LCS and everything, in the third year, they are still trying to pretend like we cannot even have players in studio for their games, in an empty studio with just other teams, other staffs, and production staff. That makes absolutely no sense, and I really don't care even what the other side has to say, because there is no way that makes any sense, and I will explain exactly why. Because we had Immortals responding. They said, hey, thanks for keeping us safe. And what does that even mean? How is Riot and the LCS keeping them safe by keeping them out of the studio? This would only make sense if Immortals and all the other LCS teams and players and staff and everyone was quarantining. If the Immortals was staying in their facility and just living out of their facility, and they're like, oh, Riot, we don't want to go to the studio. We don't want to expose us to Team Liquid. If we get exposed to Team Liquid and the Riot production staff, where COVID is just riddling all of them, we're going to get sick. No. That's not what Immortals and their coaching staff and their players and everything are doing. These are the players that are outside of the LCS. They're going about living their normal lives just like everyone else is doing. These players are going to the gym, going to restaurants. We've seen pictures of players out at bars and clubs and stuff, and going to amusement parks and, doing all these different activities, going to the grocery store. There's people everywhere. And I tweeted this out as well. You unironically are more likely to have a higher number of exposure to a higher number of people and more COVID in your day-to-day life on a non-game day than you are at an empty LCS studio on a match day. So how is the LCS keeping these players safe? How is Riot keeping them safe? These are not people that are quarantining. These are not people that are staying away from other people and other human interactions. So why does the studio have to be empty? That literally does not make sense. It is all optics by the side of Riot and the LCS and everyone on that side of the argument to make things look good without actually even being good in application. And, we've gone so far as to have, like other people are saying this as well. This is like Dr. Respawn. He's a doctor that works he's a physical therapist, but he has a doctorate and he works for some of the esports teams and stuff as well. And even he said, yes, this time the decision is fine on paper, but it makes zero practical reasoning sense. And that is absolutely true. And something I said is, hundreds of thousands will gather for the Super Bowl in around 1 month. And why that is of note is the Super Bowl is literally in Los Angeles. And there will be hundreds of thousands of people in Los Angeles for that event. Yet we can't even get a couple hundred fans. The LCS studio seats like a couple hundred people, like 200, 300 people. We can't even get a couple hundred fans into the venue, let alone just having players, staff, and Riot staff in there to produce this thing in-house, which again, these players, these teams, these staffs are interacting with each other anyway outside of the LCS studio. Again, if all the teams, if all the players were, super quarantining and trying to stay extra safe and they were just, playing and they're getting all their food delivered and they're never leaving their houses or whatever, then hey, if Riot says, hey, everyone's quarantined right now, we're not going to bring them in, that would make sense. But that is not what's happening. These players are living very normal lives outside of the studio and outside of the LCS schedule and everything, and I don't blame them. That's fine. I think they should be able to do that. Be safe. If you want to get vaccinated, get vaccinated. If you want to wear a mask, whatever. But the fact that we're acting like not having the players play in an empty LCS studio is keeping them safe is ridiculous. If you are saying that, you are just flat out an idiot. That does not even make sense. You do not even have an argument. There is an argument to not have fans. I get that. That is a whole another population of people. You don't know what the fans are doing. You don't know who's sick. You don't know who's interacted with sick people. You don't know who's got what going on. But your players, your staff, and the Riot staff, you can have full control of and full knowledge of. You can test them as much as you want. You can control who they've interacted with. You can do all that. And you can, obviously, it's still possible for COVID to happen. But right now, in the current circumstances we have, where players are living normal lives outside of the LCS, it's still possible for COVID to happen as well. Riot is not helping the situation at all. They're not making anyone safer. And the fact that, you get teams like Immortals saying, thanks for keeping us safe. And I responded. I said, okay, Immortals, are your players and staffs all quarantining? Or are they all exposed to more people on a single non-game day than they would be by going to an empty studio for a match? Just curious. And obviously they didn't respond because the answer is obvious. They're not quarantining and they are exposed to more people on a non-match day than they would be on a day where they wake up, play some scrims, go to an empty studio, and then go home. They would be exposed to a very, very small amount of people relative to a normal day of eating at restaurants, going to the grocery store, going to the gym, going to the bar, whatever they decide to do for their free time. So it just makes no sense, and it is very, very stupid, and people have responded, so really happy to see the backlash. I'm especially trying to fight it, but truly don't understand how esports, especially the LCS, which is such a small crew, of employees and fans comparatively can't make it work, but the NFL, NBA, NHL are all doing it. And I know some people have said, hey, but look, like the NBA had an outbreak and they had like third string players playing. They had like 1 or 2 weeks of outbreaks. For the most part, the NBA has been going off without a hitch, with hundreds of thousands of fans in attendance every night with all the teams playing. Yes, they have had a stretch of bad stuff happening. And if that happened in the LCS, maybe we cancel a week. Maybe we go online for a week or whatever. But that doesn't mean you don't do the other weeks. Again, the NFL has had some issues. The UFC has had very, very minor issues. And those are all contact sports. You are comparing contact sports to esports. Obviously contact sports are going to be more susceptible to outbreaks and stuff. And there have been very, very minimal outbreaks. And I know there's some people saying that, hey, just because the NFL is doing it doesn't mean we should be doing it. Again, the NFL is doing this with hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people every weekend. And with the LCS, we're talking about hundreds of fans potentially. And again, I think the argument to not have fans is much stronger than the argument to not have players in the studio. It is very, very stupid. It absolutely takes away from the product. It is one of the main reasons why we've seen LCS viewership dropping off year over year. It is hurting the long-term health and stability of this league, of this esport, and it is hurting the long-term stability and viability of these players' careers potentially as well. And then that's indirectly hurting other people, like me, Travis Gafford, other people in this industry who, try and make a living or make a name or whatever off this stuff. It is so, so bad in so many ways, and the logic is not there. Again, if people feel unsafe, get vaccinated, get boosted. You can get your mask. You can do all this stuff. Do everything you got to do. But to not have players in an empty LCS venue, an empty LCS stadium, where they are not exposed to any higher amount of people or risk than they would normally be in their day-to-day life, actually less, makes absolutely no sense. And then to act like, thank you so much, LCS, for keeping us safe, is absolutely just idiotic. And again, people are getting frustrated. People are getting mad about this. And you still have people coming out and like quoting this tweet. I responded to this guy as well because it's just so annoying to see. This guy, I don't know who this guy is. He's apparently the LCS creative director at Riot. And he's saying, replies to this have been pretty unfortunate. There's nobody more passionate about getting the LCS back to normal than the crew and players. And like, okay, that is not true. I'm sure if you asked most of the players, they would... I think if you polled the players right now and you let them choose, we would have fans back in, and we would be having in-person, venues and finals and worlds and all that stuff. I don't think the players are saying, hey, let's keep the fans out. That's not what's happening. This is decisions being made behind the scenes by people at Riot and people at the LCS 100%. He says, ultimately, as we're seeing rising cases that affect those close to us, the health and safety of everyone comes first. And again, that's not true. The health and safety of everyone is not coming first in this situation. You looking like you are caring about the health and safety of people is coming before actually the health and safety of people. And that is just 100% fact. Again, you could have full control of the situation. You can test everyone as much as you want before you let them enter the LCS, venue. You can require vaccines like some places have. You can, you can do tests as much as you want. You can do masks while you're playing. You can do a whole number of things. But acting like the only option you have is to keep players in their facilities and out of an empty LCS venue makes absolutely no sense. And guys like this, it's just so annoying. It's so frustrating to me. It's so defeating to me that, we played that game for 2 full years now. We're going on year 3, and to sit here and have people like this, pander to us and continue to tell us that, hey guys, we know it's, so disappointing to see your responses. We're doing everything we can, is just really disgusting. And I think it's going to, if we stay on this track, it's going to continue to see declining viewership, and it's going to take a major hit to the LCS, and it's going to be very, very disappointing and sad to see because it is very, very unnecessary. But again, I'm not surprised by this news. It's funny that they say, hey, they're going to reassess the situation, because guess what? Next week or in 2 weeks when the knockout's supposed to happen, COVID's still going to be around. They're planning to do the spring finals in Houston. Guess what? In 4 months, COVID's still going to be around. So at some point, we're going to have to make a decision of having an in-person event or whatever with COVID still existing. They tried to have summer finals in New Jersey. So why do they keep acting like, hey guys, we're about to do this. We're about to do this. Like, sometimes they care about COVID. Sometimes they don't. Makes absolutely no sense. They're playing both sides. But yeah, I mean, look around the world. UFC having smash hit successes right now. They're growing their fan base. They're growing their audience. They are helping out their sport and their business in the long term. NFL's doing the same. NBA's doing the same. Soccer's doing the same. And here you have esports acting like they're doing everybody a favor when they're absolutely not. It's funny because even like Dr. Fauci, the guy who, is the one behind a lot of this stuff, he goes to baseball games. He doesn't wear a mask at baseball games. He's out and about. But then you have people at Riot, people at the LCS that are like, hey, Dr. Fauci said we can't, again, we listened to this stuff for 2 years. I understood it at one point. We're getting to the point where it makes absolutely no sense. So frustrating, so annoying. And again, at the end of the day, just very, very disappointing. I'm not surprised. I'm just disappointed. And people like this make absolutely no sense. This guy just responded to me, I guess, too. He said, I'm not sure what else there is to say. There is an uptick in people testing positive, not just in Los Angeles, but within our ecosystem, rather than risking an outbreak with player, staff, and crew. Erring on the side of caution for the health and safety of everyone is the way to go. Additionally, cases are bad enough here in Los Angeles that the currently planned Super Bowl is currently looking at alternative locations. And again, this is just false. It was actually announced today and yesterday that the Super Bowl is still going to be going on in Los Angeles. So again, this guy is just simply uneducated. He has no idea what he's talking about. And yeah, these are the people, making the decisions behind the scenes. Very disappointing, very disgusting. But I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to sound like a broken record. That's it for this video today, guys. Drop a like if you did enjoy it. Leave your thoughts down below. I know everyone's thoughts are going to be all over the place. Hopefully I catch you guys in the next one. Peace.